Hey, this is Sasha Evdokov, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Stocks, episode number 132. And today what I'd like to do is share with you how you can learn to trade in the most optimal way. Now, what do I mean by this? I mean, how can you learn to trade quickly, very fast? Okay, how can you get to that destination from, let's say, point A to point B, okay, as quick as possible? How do you get there? Now, notice I said most optimally. That means without a lot of bouncing around, without a lot of sway and deteriorating from or moving away from your objective, from a straight line, right? So if you look at any destination, the quickest distance between 2 points, so let's say I have 2 points right here, the quickest distance between both of these points, point A and point B, is simply a straight line. Now, for many people, whether you're building a business, whether you're working out and trying to lose weight, the distance that we go through of, let's say, A to B, and these are our 2 points, it's more along the lines of something like this. You know, we go one way, we get closer, we bypass things, and then we go ahead and finally connect the dots. I mean, we eventually get there. It's just when you look at the distance, the total distance that you have to cover in, let's say, variation number 1 versus variation number 2. Variation number 2 has a lot more distance that you have to go through and a lot of other heartaches, a lot of other problems in order to get to your final destination or where you want to be. And then even when you get there, you're still looking to maintain, let's say, your weight or looking to maintain your strategy for trading stocks and improve that and constantly continue to chisel things out and make it more efficient, make it a little bit easier on yourself. So you're always tweaking those things. And ideally, we want the A to B motion. That's how we want to really learn to trade. We want to, start at point A, continue doing exactly what you need to do, whether it requires, a couple steps. So here you have 4 or 5 different steps. And as you go through these different steps, boom, you get to point B and you're done and you've learned how to trade. But that's not always the case. So the way that most people go through learning to trade is they go here from, let's say, point A, then they go to point B, then they go to point C, D, E, you go to F, G, and then finally your point B actually becomes point H. Because at point B right here, it might have been reading some books. Point C could have been some courses. So there's a lot of things that you go through to get to that end destination. And we use this also in business as an example because it's like playing golf. Okay, when you're playing golf, the same thing occurs, right? So when you're looking for to get the ball in the hole, and let's say here's your flag, and you're starting off over here and you're teeing off, and you hit the ball over here. Okay, the ball gets there. Then you might get in the sand. Okay, you might go here. You might even go backwards a bit at times, in business at least. In golf, hopefully you're not that bad, but sometimes things do go backwards, and then you'll get a little closer, and finally you get the ball in the hole. Now, when it comes to business, there's a lot more steps, and the same thing in stock trading. There's going to be a great deal of steps. So what's the fastest way to get there from point A to point B? Let's not beat around the bush. What's the quickest way to get there? The fastest way to get there is actually through coaching and mentorship. Okay, so if you have a coach or a mentor, that's basically the fastest distance in order to get from point A to point B. Now, coaching and mentoring is not usually the cheapest form. Notice I didn't say, the most cost-effective way to get from point A to point B. But it is one of the more optimal ways to get there because it saves you a great deal of time. Because you could go and do this and get eventually to your destination, but it's going to cost you in your time and energy. You'll have to read probably a lot more books. You'll probably have to study a lot more courses on your own and put the puzzle pieces together. It doesn't mean you can't get there. It's just not as efficient or effective right here as point A to point B. Okay, whereas with coaching and mentorship does that for you. It's more of a direct path. Now, even with coaching and mentorship, you still might not be there in a straight line, but it might go ahead and give you a little bit less variations when it comes to moving in the wrong direction. So you might do a few things that are a little bit different, and you go a little bit in another direction, but you're kind of moving in that direction rather than in a variation where you're looking to do it all on your own. It's a lot more back and forth. It's a lot more figuring things out of the puzzle pieces on your own, trying different things, seeing yourself from that outer perspective. And that's ultimately what you need to do in order to get to your destination, is you need to be able to see yourself from that outer perspective and make those decisions of what to do next. Whereas when you have a coach or a mentor, they're already looking at you from an outer perspective and they're saying, okay, do this or do that. And it might be uncomfortable for you. And maybe the thing that you do right here is not exactly what your end goal is, but it's to get you to your end goal. It's there to train you, okay? And a lot of people don't understand what the difference between a coach and a mentor is, okay? So when you look at it really, at least from my perspective, when you look at a coach, okay, a coach typically is there to motivate you. He's there to showcase, okay, do this, do this, do this. Kind of a step-by-step process, but also a little bit more motivating, right? So this is all good. I mean, you know, you have football coaches, you have soccer coaches. They're great in the public field, right? But then when you get into mentoring and mentorship, okay, this is more along the lines of what I do. I mean, I do coaching and mentorship, but ultimately when you get into more mentoring, this is where I ultimately switch the mindset when I start dealing with people one-on-one, is we take them from coaching into more mentorship. And ultimately, when you mentor someone, it's not necessarily to just constantly motivate them, okay? I don't want to be the one, whereas a coach right here, he might be the one to pick up the phone and give you a call and say, hey, wake up, buddy, it's time to get up. We need to work out, right? So they're there to motivate you, be on your back all the time. A mentorship is there more along the lines of, or a mentor, he's there looking out for you, right? So he's looking and saying, okay, read these 10 books. Okay, once you're done reading these 10 books, get back to me, okay? Once you're done with these 10 books, okay, the next step would be do this, okay? So I might say, go ahead and put on these trades with 3 shares. But I'm going to be losing commissions. Yeah, okay, you'll lose on commissions, but how much money are you going to really lose with 3 shares, right? So think about it that way. So, okay, that would be the next step. Okay, once you've done that, we discuss the issues, the problems, okay, and then you might need to do this next step. So that's ultimately what the mentorship does, or a person who's mentoring someone. And that's ultimately what I do. They say, I guide people through the process to get them to their destination. Now, when you do this and when you look at people many times and you deal with people, you see how you can get them to that end destination depending on where they want to go. And sometimes people think they know where they want to go. Okay, so they assume they want to go over here somewhere, right? So they're trying to hit it and they think they want to go here when in reality, based on what they tell me in our discussions, they really need to go actually over here. And that's what some people don't understand, is when you read books, when you do courses, sometimes those things can play a trick on you because you think you actually want to go here, but in reality, you need to be going somewhere a little bit different. So keep that in mind, is that the quickest distance to learning quickly, to getting to your end destination of trading successfully, is mentorship or coaching. Those are the things that'll move you the quickest, but they aren't always the cheapest. So if we look at cost-effective ways to learn how to trade profitably and get to consistency, I always like to look at things in terms of a spectrum, right? So a spectrum just outlines 2 distances. It could be 0 to 10. It could be, moving from one color to the next. It's just spread out in a distance. Okay, and ultimately, probably the most cost-effective or the free way of doing it, okay, so let's say over here on this side of the spectrum, it's basically free, okay? And then over here, it's the highest, most expensive training that you could get or education that you could get. So ultimately, between this, you have a lot of variation. So on the free side over here, or somewhere cheap, let's just say we have web or internet articles, okay? So this would be kind of like articles. Then somewhere over here you might have videos, which are also usually free, but they take a little bit longer time to watch. You'll have somewhere in between here the books, which start to get a little bit more expensive. You might have membership, okay, depending on the membership. Sometimes it's here. Sometimes it's even further or more expensive. In here, you might have some courses, okay, so course offerings. Then you might get into, again, another type of membership. So let's just say, okay, we'll have another membership type. And then finally, you get more into coaching or mentoring. Okay, this is usually, let's say, a little bit more expensive. And then maybe in between here also you'll have events if you're into that kind of thing and if you go to events. But you know, this is our spectrum, this is our range. This isn't everything, but this is our range. Okay, so from here going free web articles and videos, you know, let's just say $0, but this may cost you a little bit more in time to do more of the videos. The articles you can skim or read them maybe a little quicker. Books might be, let's say, $15 membership, let's say $30 depending on the membership courses, let's say $200 to $1,000. Just really depends, right? Depends on the course. Again, events could be $2,000, it could be $5,000 or $10,000. It really just depends. And then coaching and mentoring, this can be depending on the value of time and how much value the person wants to give you for the buck. This can really range. I've seen mentorship programs as low as, let's say, well, $2,000, $200, but I've also seen some in the $20,000. I've seen some in the $150,000 for one session for an hour of somebody's time. $150,000, right? So it really just depends. For me, I really try to, especially for people who are motivated, to give them the opportunity to have a small little session and then they can build on things, but it's really one-on-one attention. So you have to remember, why do these things scale in value like this? Well, remember, with web articles, when you write one, you can reach, you know, millions of people or a lot of people, right? So if you're looking at it in terms of a pyramid right here, right? And we look at just a sheer amount of people and the cost to produce, okay, as we continue to go higher. So this could be articles and videos. Right here, the most amount of people will skim on those or hit those articles and hit those points or videos, right? As you get into books, there's going to be less people that buy the books than there are that look at the videos or the articles because it costs something. And not to mention, you know, the amount of material that's there, it's more deep, and not everybody's looking to get into something as deep or detailed. Think of all the little kids that start soccer or hockey and then eventually quit, and there's very few that actually become professional soccer players or hockey players. And that's what happens. As you continue to go up the ladder, okay, let's just say we go into courses right here, there's less people that probably want courses than books. And then you might get into events, let's say here, or then mentoring right here. Now, keep in mind, when you write an article or create a video, such as this video right here that I'm creating, you know, you can hit a lot of people. So the production time, once you do it once, it hits a lot of people. Same thing with the books, but there's costs involved, right? So for printing, maybe editing, cover design, there's costs involved to produce that. Courses, even more so, there's more costs. Events, even more costs. So as you continue to move up this ladder or more closer to this area, the cost goes up also for you as a consumer, but also as the person that's creating it or teaching it to you. You know, so if you want to get to that destination, it's just more expensive. And mentoring, now you're looking for one-on-one, right? So when you're looking for one-on-one or even group coaching sessions, right here, you can only handle so many people at once. So if I'm doing a one-on-one session, that 1 hour of time is dedicated specifically for that one person. That attention is for that one person. So once I've done my focus, my attention, we've spent that time is gone. Whereas if I wrote a book and I spent my time on a book, I could sell hundreds of thousands of copies or millions of copies, depending on the book and how well the sales go. And I could do it for many years to come. So this is why with coaching and mentorship, it is the most expensive. So this is the highest and most expensive. But also, when you start looking at this spectrum, remember, this is also the fastest way or the most efficient way to learn, because now you're moving directly the focus on you. And you don't need to maybe focus and read all these articles, and all the time that you'll waste spending time on reading articles or reading books. You might not need to exactly do all of that. Now, granted, I personally recommend a combination. So for example, you start combining things. So you might say, okay, well, I'll read, let's say, 3 books this month, then do a course, one course this month, and 1 coaching or mentoring session this month. So you basically kind of do a combination. Then next month you might do more videos, and then another couple of books, and you start kind of doing a combination of those things. And you might skip a mentoring session, and then you do that the third month. Okay, so this is month 1, month 2, and by the third month you do another coaching session. So that's kind of the way you can balance things out. But ultimately, obviously, if you have someone that's sitting there watching you and working with you one-on-one, just like a tutor, sitting at your desk, pointing things out on math problems, that's the fastest way to get there. It's not the cheapest, but it's the fastest, it's most efficient. You don't waste as much time doing certain things. You don't waste your time studying certain things. You basically get to that end destination very fast, but it is more expensive. The free way, can you still get to your end destination by taking the free approach, right? So if you went ahead and you played golf and you're looking to get to this hole in this destination right here, can you still get to your end destination by just reading web articles and videos? Yeah, that's pretty much how I did it, but it took me a lot longer than I would say than many or other people. And maybe that was because I was silly. The other thing is maybe because I thought I knew better. It could also be because back then when I first started, there was no YouTube. There was not as much articles. I mean, the internet still had a Lycos and AOL search, and just a lot of other things were still ancient online. Nowadays, there's just so much more information available online. In fact, so much that it's saturated and you can filter things in, but you have a wide array of things that you can go and grab information from and pull information from and learn from. So it allows you to take this compression, okay, take this road and maybe smooth it out a little bit and, shorten it, right? So it allows you to make that distance a lot shorter for yourself. So rather than if we, use this yellow line as 10 years, okay, and this 10 years, by just you doing web articles, videos, and books, if you add in maybe a course or a membership or an event or a coaching session, by just adding 1 or 2 of these could compress this to, let's say, 7 years. It might give you a big eye opener and save you 3 years of your life. Now, in that 3 years, you could also save some money because you don't need to buy as many books. You might not need to buy as many courses or read as many articles. So there's a lot of other benefits to it, but always look at compressing things. The fastest way to do it, the most efficient way to do it is through coaching. It's a little more expensive, and through these mentorship programs. But again, it's more expensive. If you want to go the free route, if you don't have a lot of money, you want to do it slowly, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But just understand it'll take you a little bit longer, but you'll do it through web articles, videos, books, and then eventually as you attain more funds, or maybe you decide, okay, I want to step up your education and you want to get there a little bit quicker, you might decide to purchase a course, a membership, or an event. So ultimately, it's all about opening up your mind. It's all about compressing that distance. And how do you do it? Obviously, one-on-one is the fastest. You could do web articles and videos. That's also pretty good. A lot of the free material, it'll still get you there. It'll just take a little bit longer. Whereas courses, it might be all in one spot. Here's a course all about mentality, strategy building, learning how to risk manage. So then you have it all in one spot. You don't have to hunt for those videos. You don't have to search around. It's all there, compressed, ready to go. So in either case, that's kind of the big picture. That's how you get to your end destination the fastest and get consistency. But obviously, you want to balance. Balance those things out depending on your own personal situation, depending on the time that you have, the energy that you have, and the money that you have available. Balance it out, and you'll be able to compress your time from 10 years to maybe 7 years, or from 7 years to maybe 4 years, or from 4 years maybe to 2 years. You'll be able to shed off some years off of that timeline. So thank you so much for joining me today. Hope you really enjoyed the video. Makes you think how you can really get to your destination a lot faster. Now, by all means, if you want to take a look at some of the coaching plans that I have available, or join me on a live webinar where it's kind of like a coaching session, it's a group session that you can go ahead and ask me questions that you want, then go ahead and click this button right here and you can get on the newsletter list, because periodically I release free webinars to those of you that are on the newsletter list. So click this button, enter your name and email address when you're there, and you'll be sent those newsletters as they are released. Thanks again for joining me. In the end, remember, do what you love, contribute to other people, but most importantly, live life abundantly. I'll see you next time.